Marvel, what are we doing? So if you've been living under a rock for the last 24 hours, yesterday was San Diego Comic-Con and Marvel's Hall H panel, the big event that they do every couple years at San Diego Comic-Con where they reveal a bunch of stuff about the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this one was pretty important and pretty big, probably the most important one that they've ever done, because it's the first time they've done a big panel like this in this new Marvel world where Marvel's not that successful anymore. A world in which we have a lot of questions about Marvel, especially with the exit of Jonathan Majors, who was supposed to be playing the new big villain of this saga of Marvel movies. A big panel in the post-world of where we've had multiple bombs, like Thor Love and Thunder and the Marvels. So what does Marvel do now? Well, we ended up getting a very small panel that talked about their next 3 films that are coming out next year, and also the 2 Avengers films, and I'm not going to stall any longer. Let's just get to the thing that we all want to talk about. They revealed who's going to be the villain of the next Avengers saga. Now that Jonathan Majors is out, now that Kang is out, who's it going to be? Well, the obvious choice is Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom, arguably the greatest villain in the history of Marvel. Who is going to play this character? There are so many great options. It could be Michael Fassbender, such an amazing actor. He could do such a great job playing this character. It could be Giancarlo Esposito. I know he's playing some random character in the Captain America movie, but maybe he's a version of Victor Von Doom. What about Rami Malek? I mean, he kind of looks like an evil villain. It could be Henry Cavill. It could be anybody. There are so many different people that could play this character if they decide to do it. And then look at that. Avengers Doomsday. Yes, the next Avengers movie will be about Doctor Doom. So who will play him? Who will play him?
What?
What are you... Marvel. What's going on here? And I know I might get some hate for this because people are in kind of that honeymoon phase of excitement, but really? I heard rumors about this like a week ago, and I just thought, no. They're not gonna... No. And they did it. Yes, Robert Downey Jr. is playing Doctor Doom. And I have thoughts. Also, not only is he playing Doctor Doom, but the Russos are coming back to direct Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, which are essentially going to be a Part 1 and a Part 2, if that's not clear enough. Like Infinity War and Endgame were essentially a Part 1 and Part 2. This is a 2-part story that they're going to film back-to-back, and it's 2 movies that are really one big story. If that's not clear to people, you might be dumb. Now, I have a lot of thoughts. Now, obviously, as I just was saying, Doctor Doom is one of, if not the greatest Marvel villain ever, and I have been excited to see how Marvel was going to pull this character off for years. It's one of the last few things I've been excited about for the MCU, because we've never really gotten a truly great version of Doctor Doom on the big screen. We had him in the original Fantastic Four movies, and that version was okay. We had a really weird version in the Josh Trank Fan Four Stick film, but a true great Marvel badass, a guy who could be the next Thanos. That's what we've all been kind of waiting for, and the excitement of fan casting, who could play him, who could bring something original to this character, all that to be kind of thrown away, and them to just use a Tony Stark variant as Doctor Doom, something about that feels really just disappointing. And there's a lot of aspects and layers to this announcement, and I'll try to go through all of them, but just the pure disappointment of knowing we're not gonna get a real, true, unique version of Doctor Doom. We're getting a gimmick version. And I'm sure there's a chance that he is playing Victor Von Doom, a version in this other universe where this guy's not Tony Stark. He is an actual Victor Von Doom, and he might play an authentic version of that character, but at the end of the day, when he's fighting the Avengers, they know that that is an alternate version of Tony Stark, and that's obviously going to be a plot thread. There's no way that he takes off his mask and all the Avengers characters are like,
I don't even know who you are.
No, this is clearly a gimmick, and part of the larger theme of this story is going to be a fact that this is an evil version of the man they all once knew and loved. I mean, that's just so clear that that's going to be a part of it. And for that to be any part of Doom is disappointing, because Doom is such a great character that he did not need this kind of Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. subplot to bring this character to greatness. But I guess the MCU needed it. They needed the hype, they needed the money, they needed the loud noise of the fans going crazy over Robert Downey Jr. being back. My next problem is Robert Downey Jr. actually coming back for this. Now, his exit in Endgame is one of the greatest exits in the history of cinema in these long-standing stories, and I knew eventually they would likely bring him back. But 5 years? He couldn't go 5 years? They couldn't make one Avengers movie without him? Not a single Avengers movie without him? Really? And listen, I get it, you know, Logan was a beautiful movie, and Hugh Jackman had a beautiful exit to that, and not even 5 years later, or about 7 years later, he's back in this Deadpool film. But I think there's a little bit of a difference with him coming back to this role. It's because there was an obvious reason to come back. I think when Logan ended and then Deadpool came out, we all collectively went, You know, his exit was great, but, it really would have been nice to see him in Deadpool. Would have been really nice to see that buddy cop bromance movie. Whatever, I guess we'll never get it. Oh, nope, we did get it. Okay, great, we're all happy. There was an obvious entrance point of like, alright, he shouldn't come back, but if he does, that would be a good reason. Robert Downey Jr. should not come back as Iron Man. He shouldn't come back to the Marvel Universe at all, unless there's a good reason, and this, to me, doesn't seem like a good reason. And I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they pull this off, and this is some great, great story, but there's just... I don't have a lot of trust. For a multitude of reasons. One, because everything Marvel's touched recently has been pretty atrocious or mediocre at best. Next, because this clearly wasn't the plan. Now, if you told me this was the plan, from the moment Endgame ended, this was the plan for Marvel, I would say, okay, I'm sold. I'm interested. But clearly this is something that was thrown together very quickly because we all know this film was called The Kang Dynasty. Jonathan Majors' Kang was supposed to be the villain of these two movies, or variants of him. We all know that, and because Jonathan Majors decided to be a wife beater, or a girlfriend beater, I don't really know if they're married, but if they are, congratulations, I'm sorry that he beats you. But because of that, they had to pivot to something else, because I guess... recasting Kang as Colman Domingo or Jonathan Boyega was just too complicated. Nobody would buy that, but they will buy Tony Stark Dr. Doom. But it's obvious that this was a last-minute thing, that they brought on new directors, obviously the Russo brothers, I'll talk about in a second, new writers, because these films were being written and directed by like 5 different people. They've had so many different directors and writers attached to these Avengers films that it's so clear that they had no plan at all, and this is a last-second desperate gimmick move to try to bring the fans back into the fold, and it seems like it's been successful so far. People are clearly interested. I'm making a video on this, so clearly it's creating a buzz. Even if it's negative, all buzz is good buzz. But because it's a last-minute thing, and this is not something that has been planned, or really, there haven't been seeds planted for this, I have no, like, hope or trust that this is going to be done well. My feeling is that this is going to be a gimmicky bullshit thing that maybe the movie ends up being like exciting enough, all these characters coming together, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, all these people coming together and fighting Doctor Doom, like maybe that will be cool enough that it doesn't matter, but like it just feels so cheap. And bringing back the Russo brothers feels also cheap. Like the Russo brothers, it's kind of like this funny thing that both these sides went through. You know, Marvel and the Russos, they made all those films together. They made an Infinity War and Endgame at the end of it, these beautiful films, and then they said, we're done. We're not working with each other anymore. We're going to go off and do our own thing. We don't need each other. We can go make films without each other and just be amazing. And the Russos said, we don't really want to make Marvel anymore. Maybe we'd come back if they did Secret Wars. And then Marvel announced Secret Wars, and they said, no, we're not bringing back the Russos. We'll have anybody else do them, but not the Russos. So then the Russos went off and made a bunch of movies, and the movies that they made were terrible. So?
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
But then also, like, Marvel, after they left the Russos, went and made a bunch of movies and TV shows. And they were also all terrible. So?
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
So I guess these two sides cannot make good shit without each other. So they're coming together to hopefully make good shit. And I will say, I do like that at least you're going to now have the same writers and directors making both. Originally, they had a different writer and director attached to the Kang Dynasty and a different writer-director attached to Secret Wars. And I don't know if Kevin Feige's ever seen these movies. They're called... what are they called again? Oh yeah, the Star Wars sequels, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and whatever the last one's called that we don't talk about. Part of the reason those films don't work is because each and every one had a different writer and a different director, and they all became kind of a mess. They don't connect to each other, and they just don't flow well. If you're going to do a part 1 or a part 2 or a trilogy, they should all be written and made by the same person or the same people, so there is a flow to them. One vision that is not tampered or kind of poisoned by ideas of other people that then take control of the story later on. So it's good that at least these two will be kind of one coherent story, versus I was very worried when they had all these different writers and directors attached that it would be two very different movies that just did not connect and it would all be a gigantic mess. But I am very much concerned. I'm also concerned for Robert Downey Jr. Unlike the Russos and unlike Marvel, Robert Downey Jr. left the Marvel Universe and has been extremely successful. Specifically in the last year, I mean, yeah, Oppenheimer, he gave one of, if not the best performance of the decade so far, wins an Oscar, says, F you, Marvel, I'm done with superhero bullshit. He then goes and does The Sympathizer, where he plays like 8 characters and he's really good in that show. Why is he back? My only guess is money? That Marvel paycheck, man. God, it must be nice. But it's just kind of silly, and yeah, maybe it'll be great, and maybe it'll be amazing, and maybe I'll eat shit, and I will be happy if I eat shit, because all I want is good storytelling. I want stories that make sense and flow. And all I want for the Marvel Universe is for them to tell a story that makes sense. And my thought process is that this is not the obvious direction that their story was going in. This is the direction that they decided to force because they needed cheap buzz by bringing Robert Downey Jr. back, because they did not think that just recasting Kang as Coleman Domingo or Jonathan Boyega would create enough buzz, and maybe they're right. Maybe it wouldn't have. But you know what would have created more buzz? Telling good stories and making good movies and TV shows, which is something that they have failed to do because all they care about is hype and money, and when they can't create hype, they don't get money, and they don't understand that the easiest way to build hype and money is by telling good stories and making good movies. And they've just forgotten how to do that. And it makes me question if they ever even knew how to do that, or if they just got lucky and caught a wave in a period of time where this is the type of stuff people were craving, and now that wave is gone, and it's receded back into the ocean, and people want something else. I'm saying all this as Deadpool and Wolverine is, like, on pace to be $1 billion movie. But that's different. I mean, it's Deadpool. It's different, okay? When their next movie... Is Captain America gonna make $1 billion? I don't know. I kind of doubt it. And I'll quickly talk about those 3 movies, because they did talk about other movies at this event. Captain America Brave New World. To me, I think the trailer looks fine. It's a movie about, you know, Captain America. Of course, the Falcon becoming Captain America, and you have Thunderbolt Ross, who's now Harrison Ford, who turns into the Red Hulk. You got a bunch of villains. Giancarlo Esposito's playing some random-ass villain. And yeah, I guess it looks alright. They're bringing in adamantium. That big thing from the end of Eternals is that celestial thing is made of adamantium. So I guess we could get Wolverine, except we already did get Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine, so who cares? I guess the way that they're going to do this, though, is at the end of Secret Wars, the entire multiverse is going to kind of conform into one mega universe, and that's going to be the new MCU, which will be like a soft reboot. It'll allow them to bring in a new, like, X-Men and mutants and, like, newer characters and not have to explain, like, where have the X-Men been all these years? So Charles Xavier was just, like, randomly in his mansion during Endgame? Yeah, well, they won't have to explain that after Secret Wars, because they'll just bring everything together and it'll be a lot easier. So I guess maybe the adamantium will be an explanation of whoever the new Wolverine's gonna be. Even though there shouldn't be a new Wolverine, in my opinion. We also got, like, a little glimpse or information about Thunderbolts, which is Marvel's version of Suicide Squad. Thunderbolts, which I don't think is going to be the final title of the movie, because they have, like, that thing in the title that makes it seem like it's another gimmick thing. This is probably going to be, like, Dark Avengers or something like that. But either way, it's their version of Suicide Squad. I am not interested in this one. It's from the team that made Black Widow, and that is a terrible, terrible movie. Yeah, I was excited for this when Steven Yeun was supposed to be playing the villain. He's gone, so I don't care anymore. And Fantastic Four, I mean, it seems unique. It's taking place in a multiverse, in a different universe that's clearly gonna come into our universe as well when they do the Secret Wars, but I like the cast. I like the idea of this futuristic 60s time period. You get Galactus, Silver Surfer. It seems like they're really leaning into the gimmicky stuff here. We've never really gotten a great Fantastic Four movie, and I hope this is it. Although now that I know that Robert Downey Jr. is their Doctor Doom, or maybe their Doctor Doom, that sucks, and I'm concerned. Yet again, if you made it this far in this video, I'm not hating. I hope this works, because I think when Marvel is doing great, that is great for us. The movie theater experiences they're able to create are just magnificent. But it can't be forced. If it's forced with cheap, gimmicky shit like this, it's not going to be good. Like, what are they going to announce? Chris Evans is playing Magneto? Chris Hemsworth is playing, like, Apocalypse? Like, no, this is dumb. So yeah, I am excited to see Robert Downey Jr. come back. I hope the performance as Doctor Doom is different enough from Tony Stark that it doesn't create a problem. Like, if he is just a bad Tony Stark, this complicated version of Tony Stark who went down a darker path, like, that's going to be lame. And I hope that's not what they do. I hope they don't just do what they were going to do with the Kang Dynasty, where it's like 1 billion versions of Doctor Doom, 1 billion versions of Robert Downey Jr., like, which would tell us that in every other universe, he's not Tony Stark, he's actually Doctor Doom, and just in our universe, he's Tony Stark. Our universe is the only one he managed to be a good guy. Like, that might actually be kind of cool. I have a feeling that's probably what they're gonna do, that we had the one good version of Doctor Doom, and everybody else is like, he's Tony Stark in your universe? In our universe, he's Tom Cruise. I don't know. We'll see what they do. Either way, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more, turn on notifications, and I will see you guys in the next one.